When most people visit Argentina, they go to Buenos Aires, maybe Mendoza, maybe Bariloche. But somehow, in my case, after flying thousands of miles away from my home here in Kentucky, I found myself in a small mountain town in the heart of Patagonia, El Bolsón. So after arriving in Bariloche and stuffing my face full of chocolate and eating pizza and exploring the Swiss-inspired streets, I found myself wanting something different. I wanted to go somewhere different. I wanted to have a different sort of experience in the same region. So I wanted to go somewhere that was away from all the touristy hotspots. So I took a 2-hour bus ride south, got stopped by the police maybe once or twice, and went to a small town called El Bolsón. The truth is, I probably never would have ended up in El Bolsón on my own. About 17, 18 months ago, I could not speak any Spanish whatsoever. But after I started to learn how to speak Spanish, I ended up making friends all across Argentina. And 2 of my friends happened to end up moving to El Bolsón. And as I was planning my second trip to Argentina, they pretty much told me, you have to come here and check this place out. So there I was, a gringo from Kentucky in a small mountain town deep in the heart of Patagonia, hanging out with 2 of his Argentine friends. So one of the first things I noticed whenever I arrived at El Bolsón is just how community-oriented it is. And I was reminded of that pretty quickly. So my friends, they live in like a residential part of town, obviously. And I was trying to get into their apartment because they gave me a spare key. Well, the keys in Argentina are different, in case you don't know. The keys in Argentina are like these like big keys that you would see in like an RPG game or something that would unlock some magical treasure chest, okay? They look like a key to a dungeon. They're like really cool. I wish I had one to show you guys, but I will put it on screen. But yeah, obviously, so they're different than the keys in the United States. So I was struggling really hard to get this key to work on the gate because you have to enter a gate to get to their apartment complex. So I was struggling to enter into the gate. I was out there fumbling around. I probably looked very suspicious. So anyway, so this older guy saw me struggling, trying to desperately to get into this place because mind you, it was super cold and I wanted to get in. So he comes up to me. Obviously, he's questioning me in Spanish. He's basically asking me like what I'm doing there, who I was, who I knew, who I was with, you know, and like looking back at it, I realized that he wasn't being hostile or like he wasn't being rude or anything. He basically was just looking out for his community. He was wanting to make sure that everything was okay. You know, he wanted to just make sure everything was good. And it's funny because in a lot of ways that reminded me of Kentucky. That reminded me of my town here in Kentucky, my home. Because in like small towns like this, you know, we look out, we're more community oriented, you know, we look out for one another. We try to check up on our neighbors and things like that. So it's funny that even though I was 6,000 miles away from home, there was such a connection there between the 2 places in that regard. Up to this point, I had spent most of my time in Argentina's more popular and tourist destinations. So after arriving in El Bolsón, it felt completely different. And to be fair, El Bolsón does attract visitors, okay? And especially the people who are coming for hiking, the mountains, or the other outdoor activities in Patagonia. But during my stay, I honestly can't remember seeing another foreign tourist, or at least one that stood out as much as I did, because believe me, I stood out. But the pace of life here felt noticeably slower. It was more relaxed, it was more peaceful. The people don't seem to be in much of a hurry, and life feels simpler here. And compared to the bigger cities I had visited earlier in my trip, that change of pace was something that I welcomed. One of the things I kept hearing from my friends is El Bolsón has a hippie reputation. And apparently if you ask most of the people in Argentina what they think about El Bolsón, they will say the same. And it didn't take me very long to realize why. Okay, so whenever I arrived there, my friends, they had to work. So I had some free time, so I wanted to go out and kind of look at the city for myself. And one of the first things I like to do whenever I arrive to a new city, I like to go to where the people are. I like to go, you know, to like the city central. So I went to a plaza, and I kid you not, I was there for maybe 10 seconds, right? And some guy came up to me, "Do you want to buy some flowers?" And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, it's pretty common in Argentina for people to come up to tourists and, try to sell you stuff, socks or like jewelry or trinkets, things like that. But I was thinking like flowers, this is a new one for me. But like 3 seconds later, I realized that he wasn't talking about flowers. Okay. So I guess that sums it up. Welcome to El Bolsón. So as much fun as I was having in the city, it's pretty much impossible not to notice the massive mountains surrounding you, whichever direction you look. So El Bolsón sits in like a valley of mountains. So it sits like in the center of this valley of mountains. So basically it's impossible to look anywhere without just being surrounded and being dwarfed by them. And I don't know, it's like if you go to a place like El Bolsón and you don't go up into the mountains, it's kind of like going to Paris and not seeing the Eiffel Tower. So we had to go. We went to El Piltri, which is the most famous mountain summit in El Bolsón. After a long and slow car ride up a bumpy dirt road, we parked before we continued to hike up the mountain on foot. And let me tell you, I'm someone who's physically active and fit, but it was quite exhausting for me, okay? It was quite challenging. But with most things in life, the difficult things are often the most rewarding, and this was no different. Whenever we finally reached the top, we were overlooked the entire city, and the view is honestly hard to put into words. The video doesn't even do it justice. It's like really one of the most incredible views I've ever experienced. And as incredible as the view was, being up there, you feel something completely different than anywhere else. Because you're so far away from everything, you're isolated, you're way up in the mountains, there's no emails, there's no checking social media, there's no distractions or anything. It's just, you're just there with a couple friends, and everything seems so small, so insignificant, right? So it's like, I don't know, it was just such a peaceful and calm feeling. It's the only way I can really describe it. So we stayed up there for a while, we drank some mate, we had some snacks, had some conversations, and then we had to unfortunately make our way back down into the darkness and return back to the town. So the next day we headed over to Lago Puelo to spend some time on the lake, to hike a little bit, to just chill and relax. And I know this is like the most cliche thing ever, but while I was out in the lake, I kind of had like a moment of realization. And I just started to think to myself how crazy my story is, because a year and a half prior to that, I couldn't speak any Spanish. I had never been to South America. And if you were to tell me within that year and a half time span that I would be on a lake skipping rocks with 2 of my Argentine friends and speaking in Spanish, I mean, I literally would have thought that you were crazy. It was moments like this that made me realize just how much can change in a relatively small amount of time. And it's not from just some large life-altering decision, but a series of small ones. Deciding to learn Spanish, deciding to talk to people, deciding to take the trip. And there I was standing in Lago Puelo. I found myself less thinking about the trip and more thinking of what's in front of me. Because if life can take me from Kentucky to a lake in Patagonia surrounded by friends I never would have met otherwise, who knows where it might take me next. So, needless to say, El Bolsón was worth the trip. But it was not for the reason I was expecting it to be for. Originally, I thought it was going to be for the mountains. I thought it was going to be for the views or all the outdoor activities that there are to do there. But strangely enough, for me, it was the people. While yes, all of the mountains and views and everything are incredible, I could not help but to not fall in love with the city itself. I could not help but to fall in love with just the small community feeling. It was like really one of those places, and I know this happens a lot to people when they're on vacation. They think about like, oh, I would love to live here. But it's like one of those things you have to keep in mind. While yes, there are a lot of destinations that would seem cool to live at, the reality of living in those destinations versus just visiting them are completely different, right? But El Bolsón is really a town where I was just like, I could imagine myself there when I'm like, I don't know, like 60 years old and just enjoying my freedom there, It really just felt like an amazing place. And to me, it's like one of the things that taught me with travel. It's not just about going to these places to check off a list, Paris, New York, Los Angeles, Tokyo, While yes, all of those places are incredible, it's like there's more to it than that. Because 6 months ago, I have never heard of El Bolsón. I think El Bolsón is a place that is not on the itineraries of most people. But for me, after the experience, I've learned to be more open with the places that I want to go to, because I really love stuff like that. I really love forming a connection with the places, you know, feeling less like a tourist and feeling more like someone who is involved in that community for a brief amount of time. So I look forward to creating new memories like that in the future with other places. And obviously in the future, I'm definitely going to be returning to El Bolsón. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one. Ciao.